Okay, you are here with Senora DeVries and Esperanza Rising. She noticed she needed more bands to wrap around the asparagus bundles and walked to the back of the dock to get them. Within a maze of tall crates, she searched for the thick rubber bands. Some of the boxes had been tossed over by the immigration officials, and as she bent down to set one straight, she sucked in her breath, startled by what was in front of her. Marta was huddled in a corner, holding her finger to her lips, her eyes begging for help. She whispered, "Please, Esperanza, don't tell. I can't get caught. I must take care of my mother." Esperanza stood frozen for a moment, remembering Marta's meanness that first day in the truck. If she helped her and someone found out, Esperanza would be on the next bus herself. She couldn't risk it and started to say no, but then she thought about Marta and her mother holding hands, and couldn't imagine them being separated from each other. And besides, they were both citizens. They had every right to be here. She turned around and headed back to where the others were working. No one paid any attention to her. They were all busy talking about the sweep. She picked up a bundle of asparagus, several burlap sacks from a stack, and a dirty apron that someone had left on a hook. She quietly wandered back to Marta's hiding place. La Migra is still out front, she said in a hushed voice. They will probably leave in an hour when the shed closes. She handed the apron and the asparagus to Marta. When you leave, put on the apron and carry the asparagus so you'll look like a worker, just in case anyone stops you. Gracias, whispered Marta. I'm sorry I misjudged you. Shh, said Esperanza, repositioning the crates and draping the burlap sacks across their tops so Marta couldn't be seen. Esperanza, called Josefina, where are you? We need the rubber bands. Esperanza stuck her head around the corner and saw Josefina with her hands on her hips, waiting. Coming, she called. She grabbed a bundle of bands and went back to work as if nothing had happened. Esperanza lay in bed that night and listened to the others in the front room talk about the sweeps and the deportations. They went to every major grower and put hundreds of strikers on the buses, said Juan. Some say they did it to create more jobs for those coming from the east, said Josefina. We are lucky the company needs us right now. If they didn't, we could be next. We have been loyal to the company, and the company will be loyal to us, said Alfonso. I'm just glad it's over, said Ornacia. It is not over, said Miguel. In time they will be back, especially if they have families here. They will reorganize and they will be stronger. There will come a time when we will have to decide all over again whether to join them or not. Esperanza tried to go to sleep, but the day spun in her mind. She was glad she had kept working and thankful that her camp had voted not to strike. But she knew that under different circumstances, it could have been her on that bus. And then what would have Mama have done? Her thoughts jumped back and forth. Some of those people did not deserve their fate today. How was it that the United States could send people to Mexico who had never even lived there? She couldn't stop thinking about Marta. It didn't matter if Esperanza agreed with her cause or not. No one should have to be separated from her family. Had Marta made her way back to the strikers' farm without getting caught? Had she found her mother? For some reason, Esperanza had to know. The next morning, she begged Miguel to drive by the farm. The field was still surrounded by the chain link fence, but no one was protecting the entrance this time. All of the evidence of people she had seen before was there, but not one person was to be seen. Laundry waved on the clothesline. Plates with rice and beans sat on crates and swarmed with busy flies. Shoes were lined up in front of tents, as if someone was to step into them. The breeze picked up loose newspapers and floated them across the field. It was quiet and desolate, except for the goat still tied to the tree, bleeding for freedom. Immigration has been here too, said Miguel. He got out of the truck, walked over to the tree, and untied the goat. Esperanza looked out over the field that used to be crawling with people who thought they could change things, who were trying to get the attention of the growers and the government to make conditions better for themselves, and for her too. More than anything, Esperanza hoped that Marta and her mother were together. But now there would be no way for her to find out. Maybe Marta's aunt would hear eventually. Something colorful caught her eye. Dangling from a tree branch were the remnants of the little donkey pinata that she had given to the children, its tissue streamers fluttering in the breeze. It had been beaten with a stick, its insides torn out. los durazonos, peaches. Now, along with her prayers for Abuelita and Mama, Esperanza prayed for Marta and her mother at the washtub grotto. Papa's roses, although still short and squat, had promising tight buds, but they weren't the only flowers there. She often found that someone had put a posy of sweet flowers in front of the statue, or a single iris, or had draped a honeysuckle vine over the top of the tub. Lately, she had seen Isabel there, every evening after dinner, kneeling on the hard ground. Isabel, are you saying a novena? Asked Esperanza when she found her at the statue again one night. It seems you've been praying for at least 9 days. Isabel got up from her dedication and looked up at Esperanza. I might be Queen of the May. In 2 weeks, on May Day, there's a festival at my school and a dance around a pole with a colored ribbon. The teacher will choose the best girl student in the 3rd grade to be queen. And right now, I am the only one who has straight A's. Then it might be you, said Esperanza. My friends told me that it usually is one of the English speakers that is chosen, the ones who wear nicer dresses. So I'm going to pray every day. Esperanza thought about all the beautiful dresses she had outgrown in Mexico. How she wished she could have passed them on to Isabel. Esperanza began to worry that she would be disappointed. Well, even if you were not the queen, you will still be a beautiful dancer, right? Oh, but Esperanza, I want to be the queen. I want to be la reina like you. She laughed. But regardless, you will always be our queen. Esperanza left her there, devoutly praying, and went into the cabin. Has a Mexican girl ever been chosen Queen of the May? She asked Josefina. Josefina's face took on a disappointed look, and she silently shook her head no. I have asked, but they always find someone else to be queen. But that's not right, said Esperanza, especially if it is based on grades. There's always a reason. That is the way it is, said Josefina. Melina told me last year that the Japanese girl had the best marks in the 3rd grade, and still they did not choose her. Then what is the point of basing it on marks? Asked Esperanza, knowing there was no answer to her question, but her heart already ached for Isabel. A week later, Esperanza put yet another bundle of asparagus on the table after work. The tall and feathery asparagus plants seemed to be as unrelenting as Isabel's desire to be queen. The workers picked the spears from their fields, and a few days later, the same fields had to be picked again because new shoots were already showing their heads. And Isabel talked of nothing else except the possibility of wearing the winter's crown of flowers on her head. I hate asparagus, said Isabel, barely looking up from her homework. During grapes, you hate grapes. During potatoes, you hate potatoes. And during asparagus, you hate asparagus. I suppose that during peaches, you will hate peaches. Isabel laughed. No, I love peaches. Hortensia stirred a pot of beans, and Esperanza took off the stained apron she wore in the sheds and put on another. She began measuring the flour to make tortillas. In a few minutes, she was patting the fresh dough that left her hands looking as if she wore white gloves. My teacher will choose Queen of the May this week, said Isabel. Her entire body wiggled with excitement. Yes, you have told us, said Esperanza, teasing her. Do you have anything new to tell us? Oh, they are making a new camp for people from Oklahoma, said Isabel. Esperanza looked at her. Is that true? Hortensia nodded. They announced it at the camp meeting. The owner of the farm bought some army barracks from an old military camp and is moving them onto the property not too far from here. They get inside toilets and hot water and a swimming pool, said Isabel. Our teacher told us all about it, and we will not be allowed to swim in it. Oh, and we will be allowed to swim in it. 1 day a week, said Hortensia, looking at Esperanza. The Mexicans can only swim on Friday afternoons before they clean the pool on Saturday mornings. Esperanza pounded the dough a little too hard. Do they think we are dirtier than the others? Hortensia did not answer, but turned to the stove to cook a tortilla on the flat back comal over the flame. She looked at Esperanza and held her finger to her mouth, signaling her not to discuss too much in front of Isabel. Miguel walked in, kissed his mother, and then picked up a plate and a fresh tortilla and went to the pot of beans. His clothes were covered in mud that had dried gray. How did you get so dirty? Asked Hortensia. Miguel sat down at the table. A group of men showed up from Oklahoma. They said they would work for half the money, and the railroad hired all of them. He looked into his plate and shook his head. Some of them had never even worked on a motor before. My boss said that he didn't need me, that they were going to train the new men. He said I could dig ditches or lay track if I wanted. Esperanza stared at him, her floured hands in midair. What did you do? Can you not tell from my clothes? I dug ditches. His voice was sharp, but he continued eating as if nothing were wrong. Miguel, how could you agree to such a thing? Said Esperanza. Miguel raised his voice. What would you have me do instead? I could have walked out, but I would have no pay for today. Those men from Oklahoma have families too. We must all work at something, or we will starve. A temper Esperanza did not recognize raged to the surface. Then, like the irrigation pipes in the field, when the water is first turned on, her anger burst forth. Why didn't your boss tell the others to dig the ditches? She looked at the dough she was holding in her hand and threw it at the wall. It stuck for an instant and then slowly slid down the wall, leaving a darkened trail. Isabel's serious eyes darted from Miguel to Esperanza to Hortensia. Are we going to starve? She asked. No, they all answered at the same time. Esperanza's eyes were on fire. She stamped out of the cabin, slamming the door, and walked past the mulberry and chinaberry trees to the vineyard. She hurried down a row and then cut over to another. Esperanza! She heard Miguel's voice in the distance, but she didn't answer. When she got to the end of one row, she moved up to another. Anza! She could hear him running down the rows, catching up with her. She kept her eyes on the trees in the far distance and walked faster. Miguel eventually caught her arm and pulled her around. What is the matter with you? Is this the better life that you left Mexico for? Is it? Nothing is right here. Isabel will certainly not be queen no matter how badly she wants it because she is Mexican. We have gone to work through angry crowds of our own people who threw rocks at us, and I am afraid they might have been right. They send people back to Mexico even if they don't belong there, just for speaking up. We live in a horse stall. And none of this bothers you? Have you heard that they are building a new camp for Okies with a swimming pool? The Mexicans can only swim in it on the afternoon before they clean it. Have you heard that they will be given inside toilets and hot water? Why is that, Miguel? Is it because they are the fairest in the land? Tell me, is this life really better than being a servant in Mexico? Miguel looked out over the grapes where the sun set low on the horizon, casting a long shadows in the vineyard. He looked back at her. In Mexico, I was a second-class citizen. I stood on the other side of the river, remember? And I would have stayed that way my entire life. At least here I have a chance, however small, to become more than what I was. You obviously can never understand this because you have never lived without hope. She clenched her fists and closed her eyes tight in frustration. Miguel, do you not understand? You are still a second-class citizen because you act like one, letting them take advantage of you like that. Why don't you go to your boss and confront him? Why don't you speak up for yourself and your talents? You are beginning to sound like the strikers, Esperanza, said Miguel coldly. There's more than one way to get what you want in this country. Maybe I must be more determined than others to succeed, but I know that it will happen. Aguántate tantito y la fruta cayera en tu mano. The words stopped her as if someone had slapped her face. Papa's words. Wait a little while and the fruit will fall into your hand. But she was tired of waiting. She was tired of Mama being sick and Abuelita being far away, and Papa being dead. As she thought about Papa, tears sprang from her eyes and suddenly felt weary. She felt as if she had been clinging to a rope but didn't have the strength to hold any longer. She sobbed with her eyes closed and imagined that she was falling, and the wind whooshing past her and nothing but the darkness below. Anza. Could I fall all the way back to Mexico if I never opened my eyes again? She thought. She felt Miguel's hand on her arm and opened her eyes. Anza, everything will work out, he said. Esperanza backed away from him and shook her head. How do you know these things, Miguel? Do you have some prophecy that I do not? I have lost everything, every single thing, all the things that I was meant to be. See these perfect rows, Miguel? They are like what my life would have been. These rows know where they are going, straight ahead. Now my life is like the zigzag in the blanket on Mama's bed. I need to get to Abuelita here, but I cannot even send her my pitiful savings for fear my uncles will find out and keep her there forever. I pay Mama's medical bills, but next month there will be more. I can't stand your blind hope, and I don't want to hear your optimism about this land of possibility when I see no proof. And that's the end for today.